Kia ora telefona namaste, haere mai, and welcome to the Niche Cache. This is where we have a big old yarn about Aotearoa sporting matters, and there wasn't much winning happening up until Monday night, which the All Whites got us on track with a Monday night win over Chile. They were part of a bummer of a Friday night though, losing against Finland, and that was at the same time as the Warriors. So they lost. The Wellington Phoenix women lost their second game in a row. We got plenty of stuff to roll through here, but I do want to start with the winners, and of course the White Ferns lost as well. So that's that's our beat of losing teams. But I do want to start with the All Whites because they had a win. It was against 10 men Chile. They got that red card pretty early in the contest. How do you weigh up that red card with the 4-1 win? Did they only win 4-1 because of the red card? Did they only win because of the red card? Was there still a chance they could beat Chile without that red card? Like, how do we assess the red card situation first and foremost?
I mean, they probably wouldn't have won 4-1 without the red card. But the way I looked at it, it was just like they were well on top at the point at which the red card happened. And it wasn't one of those ones where it's like, 50-50 challenge in the middle of the field. VAR has a look at it. No one else is really paying attention, but VAR likes to look at things like that. And then you find, here's a freeze frame, a slow-mo that looks worse, and you can see some sprigs on ankles. We're going to send them off kind of just out of the blue like you sometimes do get. This was the All Whites winning the ball around halfway, pushing forward straight away onto the counter-attack, and a defender just grabbing, I think it was Kosta Barbarouses, and slowing him down to like an obvious deliberate foul to stop the counter-attack for a yellow card minutes after he'd just been booked already. So that was a little bit dumb from that fella. But it was a red card that came as a direct result of the pressure that the All Whites were applying and the way that they were playing and the sort of ascendancy that they had in that game. So I think this was one of those ones where it fits exactly into the performance. It was part of the performance that led to that. And so it was a deserved reward, the same as a goal might have been a deserved reward in the same way as a 4 goals later on were a deserved reward as well. So I think, maybe the scoreline gets blown out a little bit by playing against 10 men. Certainly, I don't think Chile's fragile mentality responded very well to that. I mean, they arguably led to the red card in the first place and then also didn't respond particularly well after getting it. Got to remember they're a team that's not in a very good situation right now and have they finished last in South American qualifying. Not that long ago, they were a top 10 nation in the world, when it was like Arturo Vidal and Alexis Sanchez and guys like that. They're not that team anymore. They haven't been that team for a while. And one of the interesting little sort of tidbits I got from, I got a little bit used to some of the Chilean media while Marco Rojas was playing over there. So I sort of know a little bit about which sources to pay attention to and stuff like that. So I did have I kind of want to do this a bit more once there's been more time to do this, but I did have a little squiz at some of those things. And one of the things I was sort of hinting at is this idea that it wasn't as much of a Chilean B team as perhaps New Zealanders think it was a Chilean B team. It was definitely a Chilean young team, a fairly inexperienced team. I wrote about that in the preview of the series, but it seems like it maybe wasn't so much a B team as it was like their A team sucks, so they're moving on to a different A team. Inexperienced and maybe didn't handle that well, but it's not like they sent over a team of reserves. They sent over the best guys they had because the previous best guys they had weren't very good and came last in qualifying. It's just a tremendous performance from the All Whites, and the red card, I think, fits into that rather than being some kind of outlier.
On the scale of, and I did have a chuckle at this, I saw it change this morning, but one of the illustrious New Zealand media outlets had 2 headlines almost next to each other saying that an iconic Premier League club is coming to New Zealand, and the other one was coach of a crisis Premier League team steps down. And they're
Is this
obviously,
the same team?
yeah, it's about the same team, Tottenham, who are, I mean, do I really give a shit if Tottenham are coming to New Zealand? No, but a lot of people do, so that's good for them. They might not be an iconic Premier League team by the time they get to New Zealand. It shows how infatuated a lot of New Zealand football is with the Premier League, which, fair play, whatever. Not something I'm interested in, but that's all good. So is this where on the scale of like iconic Chile and crisis Chile is this team?
100% crisis Chile.
Okay,
Like
cool.
this is the worst situation they've been in, and like I can't say living memory because it's not like I've tracked the Chilean national team my whole life. But I don't think they've been worse for a very, very long time. So this is catching Chile at rock bottom. But I think they did beat Cabo Verde in their first game of this tour. So, you know, even a terrible Chilean team is not a terrible team. They're just bad by their own standards.
Are they at the World Cup?
No,
So
that's what happens when you come
yeah.
last in World Cup qualifying. Yeah.
So the World Cup expanded and they still couldn't get a spot there.
Yeah.
But Finland are in the World Cup.
No, Cape Verde in
Mm.
the World Cup. So I think the two no, we snuck into second place in the little, you know, 2 games each. It's not much, but the FIFA series standings. But yeah, the two teams that lost on Friday night were the two teams that qualified for the World Cup, losing to teams that didn't qualify for the World Cup. But Cabo Verde did win the I'm switching between my Portuguese and English pronunciations there, but
We are speaking English, so you're allowed to say it English.
Cape Verde just sounds like a silly. It doesn't sound like it, especially because verde is like that's a Portuguese word. It's like green cape or whatever it is. But
Just say Green Cape.
Green cape. That's it. It's like
Yeah.
Bayern Munich, which is like half English and half German. It should be Bayern München or Bavarian Munich or whatever. But so yeah, we'll call them Green Cape.
Yeah.
They had a penalty shootout win against Finland and on Monday night before the All Whites won against Chile. So the World Cup qualifiers got their revenge in the second round of fixtures.
It seemed like there was quite a lot of change, as you'd expect from the All White staff.
Actually, wait, no, the Finland won the penalty shootout, I think. Never mind.
Shut up.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was a bit of change just to give different players an opportunity, get some game time playing for New Zealand in New Zealand, which we always say is a massive deal for a team like the All Whites. So there were lots of changes, which you had a good performance and a not so good performance aligned with some of those changes maybe. The biggest change seems to have been, from my perspective, the one and only Ben Old getting that opportunity at left back. I don't know how responsible he was for the win. Like, there seemed like a lot of changes, so it's hard to nail it. Just Ben Old was playing left back, so the All Whites won. But that was something that you have highlighted for a couple of months. He's been playing left back in France. He's been doing a great job in that position. We've discussed how that move came about and all the intricacies there. How did you feel about Ben Old playing left back and just getting busy? Like he's all effort, he's all heart. He's not like I think he's a better wide defender than Tim Payne, personally. So, like, they're very different. Tim Payne's, he's a workhorse, but Ben Old gets through his work as well. But he does have a bit of razzle-dazzle, the attacking flair. He's an excellent dribbler. I think he's going to continue to improve with his crossing and getting the ball into the box from those wide areas. But how did you rate Ben Old's performance?
I thought he was awesome. I thought he was really good there. And there was a couple of times like early second half where they started pinging the ball in behind him and the dude was able to sort of bring the ball down and get past him once or twice. Where like you could see maybe maybe some of the instincts aren't quite there yet as a converted, winger to left back, but I'm pretty much on board at this point with what his coaches have been saying at Saint Etienne, which is that they think that left back is a position where he has the highest upside. Like he might he stays as a winger, he might be all right. He might hang around in the French leagues for, a decade as a decent squad player. But they think as a left back, he could become, quite a serious option for them. He's already like bashed his way into being the first choice left back for St Etienne while they're in the second division, like trying to get promoted again, winning a lot of games since that's happened as well, winning a lot of games since they changed coaches more specifically. But he's been a part of that. He's been starting all those games. He's been playing them at left back. And this was the first time we got to see him at left back for the All Whites. I don't think that would have happened if Francis de Vries hadn't gotten injured. So the reason we saw him get this opportunity is because de Vries went off hurt last game and Kakache's not there at all. And then it's a toss-up between James McGarry and Ben Old. And Ben Old, if you're just going by the how do we get our best players on the field, Ben Old is a better player than James McGarry, even if he's less of a specialist left back, though they kind of also just is a better left back than James McGarry now. But there's a knock-on effect as well, because by moving Ben Old back from left wing to left back, you also got to start Jesse Randell, who was very bright off the bench against Finland, probably our brightest off the bench against Finland, even if we did see a bit of early season Jesse Randell with some of his like final product. Like there's one where he threw a step over on a dude and sent him sliding. It was incredible against Finland. And then, of course, he tries to shoot from a dumb angle and misses the target, or kicks it straight at the keeper once or twice. Like stuff we saw from him a bit at the start of the season for Auckland before he kind of found his rhythm. And you can see the difference quite clearly, I think, with a lot of those A-League players, where it's like the pace they play at there and then the pace they're expected to play at internationally, not just because of the opponents, because of their teammates. When you're playing with guys like Stamanic and Justin McCowd, and they move quickly and they make fast decisions, and you've got to keep up with your teammates as well as keeping up with what the opposition are doing. You could see that a bit, especially in the first game. I think de Vries and Payne really struggled at fullback to start with. I think de Vries went off injured, but I think Payne came into the game a bit more, at least steadied himself. He was much better against Chile, but then so was everyone was really good against Chile. It was the best team performance I've seen from the All Whites in a very, very long time, and a result in the Darren Baisley era, certainly, that is only matched by the win they got against Ivory Coast. And this one probably means a little bit more given how many goals they scored, given the proximity to the World Cup and, their preparations for it and all that. The fact it was a home game in front of a decent crowd on a rainy Monday night as well. And Randell again had a really good game here too. And I already thought he was guaranteed a spot in the World Cup squad. I think he'd already done enough, especially because he has that point of difference as a winger. He is a different type of player to the other options, which I think makes him more appealing to get another option in there. But you kind of don't need to make that qualification anymore, because I just thought he was really good in these ones. He's in fantastic form. Dundee United have done some superb stuff grabbing him on a free transfer before he goes to the World Cup. That's the kind of thing where if he had another year under his contract at Auckland FC, I think they could have asked for a reasonable transfer fee if that was the case, but it's not. So they've got a free transfer ahead of time for a dude who is just like clearly ready for that next step. Ben Old, I can't see being like overtaking Libby Kakache. Kakache is just a superb defender in those situations, and he gives you almost as much, if not as much, as Ben Old does going forward. But I do like him playing from deeper. It's a bit more, even though it's wider, more than central. He gets into those situations he did for the Phoenix a lot in his best season there, his last season there, where it's like collect the ball deep and just charge forward. Space in front of you, take that space, just go for it, and just turning. They're creating attacks that way as the sort of instigator, whereas when he's in the final third, his end product isn't very good. His crossing's not very good. His finishing's not very good. So he's sort of, that stuff can let him down a little bit, but getting him as that instigator when he's got someone like Randell as well to work with, and they'll need a bit more time because there are a few instances where they're like, one makes a run, the other doesn't use it, or they both want to cut inside a lot, or this is like offside traps, just timings and stuff. They got to play together a bit more to figure that out. But there's a combination there for sure, and there's rapid pace between the two of them. Both of them like desperate to get involved. So it's just it's an alternative to how Kakache would play, but it's a nice alternative to have. And kind of think there is a very good case to say that if Kakache does get injured or stays injured before the World Cup, well, old versus De Vries is a genuine conversation to have at this point. Not old versus Kakache, but old versus De Vries for that backup, even though they'll both be in the squad for sure, because De Vries, again, he has a unique factor, same as Randell does with his crossing. And that's the kind of thing you might want to just chuck on for 15 minutes at the end of the game and get the ball towards Chris Wood if you're chasing a goal. Like, that's a very important thing to have in the squad, someone who can do that, especially because he also does it from set pieces. So um, what a quite a few nice little developments from that stuff as well. I don't know that there were that many changes. There were 4 changes from one game to the next. I think more is the players that were missing the whole time through, but um, it still looks like the All Whites the whole way through. They didn't play very well against Finland. They played quite terribly against Finland, but they more than made up for that against Chile. And let's give a little shout out as well while we can to one other fellow who started this game, scored in this game, also started the game where we won against Ivory Coast. So he's got this in common. One, like that guy is not Chris Wood, because Chris Wood didn't start either of those games where New Zealand had their 2 best victories of the last year or two. But at a time when Ben Wane's come into the tour in good form and he's resurrected his career, and Kosta Barbarouses is sitting on the bench for the worst team in the A-League, and that dynamic seems to have flipped. Kosta Barbarouses comes out against Chile and puts in one of the best performances he's done in an all-whites jersey. He was fantastic. It's really watching that. It's reminded me of why I loved Kosta Barbarouses when he was playing for Melbourne and Sydney back in the day. It's like the movement off the ball is so smart, so sharp. He's always active in motion, and we saw that against Chile. Nice finish for his goal as well. First goal that Kosta Barbarouses has scored, his 10th overall, but the first he scored against a non-Oceania opponent since getting a goal in a 2-2 draw against El Salvador in 2012. So it's been nearly 14 years since the last time he scored outside of the Confederation. So shout out to that dude. And again, he's another one who was already booked on the plane, but I think from what we saw in this tour, it's like Ben Wayne might well be a very good backup option on left wing, where he did play some minutes in the second half of this game after scoring. They switched him out once De Jong came on. But Kosta is the backup to Chris Wood, and we just seem to play better when he's there versus when Wayne's there. And I think that was, despite the kind of momentum that we had leading into this tour, I think that was hammered home again in these 2 games.
Yeah, we have talked about like how Francis de Vries' crossing is something that could translate into the World Cup, but it's like you can't look at Francis de Vries and say, oh, he's as dynamic as Ben Holt. That's a bit crazy.
And you can't pick a guy because of only his crossing.
But it's the combination of everything and the different skill sets that all the players have that, to me, is the most exciting. Also very exciting anytime the ball drops to Joe Bell outside the box, because I've seen your clips of him scoring bangers from outside the box for a couple of years now. And I had high expectations when he gets the ball outside the box. I don't think he fired one into the net, but I did see a couple of good attempts, so that's something that I do like.
Well,
I love
he set up Eli Just goal doing that. I was thinking the same thing as you. I was like, the ball forced to him, corner kick, half cleared. He takes a touch. I'm like, yeah, bang it. I've seen this for Viking several times. Just smash that top corner, and he does a little dinky chip to the back post, but then just beats the offside trap and scores. It was an assist,
Well, it was an assist because it was a pass. Like, he wasn't shooting. He knows the balance of how to get it
variations.
All done. I do love the Bell Stamenic midfield combination. Like, I think that's one of my favorite little pockets of Kiwi football. And I'm also curious what your thoughts are about the goalkeeping battle between Max Crocombe and Alex Paulsen, because speaking of feelings, and anytime the ball goes to Alex Paulsen, it's just one of the best feelings I've ever had watching Kiwi football, because I know Alex Paulsen is just going to do something smart. He's going to, like, even when I saw him have the ball on his own baseline, there's 2 Chileans there. Somehow they get the ball, and Alex Paulsen just makes a really good tackle, like a sliding kind of block tackle. And it's like, obviously, I think we're spoiled for choice for like shot stoppers in New Zealand, like goalies who can just get around, they can control the box because they're all big Kiwis. Even Paulsen, like, he's just going to get amongst it. You're going to see one of the most, how can I phrase it? Like the corner free kick action at the goal mouth these days, like surely at this point we can try something different. Like surely there's an advantage to having no one around the goalie, and then people just coming from all different directions. Like we don't need. I think teams, they just always have that wrestling match in front of the goalie, and I think now we're at the point where you can try something a little bit different. So there's always good shot stoppers. They're always physical. They're always willing to put their bodies on the lines. But Paulsen has something I don't know any other New Zealand goalkeeper has ever had, and that is the control and the feet and the passing and the composure. And I think that can become an attribute for the All Whites. But I'm curious, how did you see those two performances from the goalkeepers?
Yeah, Paulsen didn't have a whole lot to do in this. It's definitely his ball playing, ball at his feet stuff was on display a few times, which yeah, glorious stuff. I always when people gasp still when goalkeepers get the ball at their feet. So these goalies know what they're doing. They know how to handle these. And Paulsen more than most. He's probably the best we've ever had at being able to do that stuff, being able to just like get his head up, make good decisions with his passing under pressure. Even some of the times where I'm sitting there being like, okay, just toof it. And he'll just take a touch, like a little shuffle to his side, and then thread a straight ball to Joe Bell's feet dropping in or something like that. It's like, okay, I didn't even see that option, but well done. He's very good at that, and if that's an element that the All Whites want to prioritize, then Paulsen probably does need to be the starting goalkeeper ahead of Max Crocombe. I still like the overall package that Crocombe brings, keeping in mind that they're very similar in terms of shot stoppers. But Crocombe is a little bigger. He sort of commands the box a little bit more as a result. I don't think either of them are amazing under the high ball, but like good enough. I thought Crocombe's not so much the short passing, but definitely his mid-range and longer passing against Finland was actually something I jotted down, thinking like this dude has improved a lot at an area that used to be a major weakness for him. He probably should have done better for the second goal that he conceded, but that was also at the end of the game when they were sort of like getting countered back the other way, and it was a frustrating performance, and nobody was doing pretty well at that point. Like, that wasn't the game-breaking goal. It was just the end of it. I get the idea that like Crocombe with his situation at Millwall might not play another game before the end of the season at club level. But he has played a lot throughout the season to this point, and he has been compared just like club stuff to club stuff. Crocombe has had a better season than Alex Paulsen has. And I don't know how much the like inactivity matters. I like it does matter, but I think it's a bit overrated for goalkeepers, especially someone like Max Crocombe, who is very used to having to earn his way in, sitting on the bench for periods of time, and then it's like your next game up is your one big chance. The other guy's injured, and you have to perform if you want to stake a claim to stay there, which he has repeatedly done at different clubs throughout his career. So I still like the overall package from Crocombe. I think his experience at a World Cup is really important. In fact, Paulsen has only played 6 or 7 internationals. He's in his first season in Europe. He's only played a couple of sort of like playoff cup type games in his career, whereas Crocombe's been through like English system lower league stuff, but playoff campaigns and things like that. He's played 3 times as many All Whites games. I think that stuff does hold a pretty like significant value at a major tournament, keeping in mind as well that Paulsen is likely to just be the guy at every World Cup from now on. Like, this is probably Crocombe's one chance. But there's no wrong answer. Like, there's either way you can make a case for either of them, and I'm not going to be disappointed whichever one happens to be playing. I might be a little bit disappointed for the guy who doesn't end up playing, because it's going to be, a tough break on whoever that is. But I don't know that either of them took a major step forward in this, despite the fact that Crocombe played in the loss, Paulsen played in the win. That's nice, but like Crocombe played in the win against Ivory Coast and kept a clean sheet in that game. So I don't know that this series changes a whole lot of that. And I think at this point there's enough evidence to build a case either way, whichever way you want. So Darren Baisley and his goalkeeping coach, I think it's Paul Gothard is the keeping coach. and his staff, they will make a decision at some point, and they'll like lock in with one over the other, and whichever way it is, someone's going to say that's the wrong decision, someone's going to say that's the right decision, but ultimately it's just one of those, like, they're different goalkeepers, and you just pick the one you want to commit to. Is there's not a right or a wrong answer.
Let's get a bit of mindfulness.
Righto. Well, I thought I'd be diplomatic after last night, and so I picked some Chilean mindfulness. So we got poet Pablo Neruda, who said, "You can cut all the flowers, but you cannot keep spring from coming."
It's a seasonal bit of mindfulness, not relevant to our
Absolutely.
seasons right now, but I was listening on the radio, the song, and I shouldn't know you. Maybe you can help me out here. Who sings this song? The Nature Into Me song. Like through falling
Yeah, I can't
leaves,
remember who sings it, but we know the song. Do do
yeah,
do 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 do.
it is an like listening to it these days. It is an absolute banger because, as you just did, you find yourself going do 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 do. Um, but it starts the one of the lines is through falling leaves I pick my way slowly,
Mm,
and that's more relevant to this season that we're currently dealing with, and it is a bit of a confusing time. It is chaos around the world, and we are in the season of the falling leaves, which has its own meanings and interpretations, but it's the same idea. Like, I don't,
seasons come, seasons go.
yeah, maybe if you like glued every single leaf to a tree, autumn would still strike and the leaves would fall off, because it's still autumn. Everything is changing, and maybe that's a good place to ground ourselves in with the chaos around us, is just being present in the season, because seasons are a beautiful thing, and we're lucky here in Aotearoa that we do have clearly defined seasons. There's like, that it's autumn because certain things are happening. You know that it's winter, and you can roll with the seasons if you're in tune with nature into me. And it's the same when spring rolls around. You get a bit of a pep in your step. There's a few things that are happening from nature that are telling you the seasons are changing. And I don't know what we as humans can do or learn from the seasonal changes. I haven't gone that deep, but I do enjoy the connection to seasons and how they change and how the world around us changes thanks to the seasons.
And for us and what we do, and for anyone who's listening to a podcast like this, the seasons also have a sporting connotation because, summer is when cricket is being played, and winter is when football and rugby league are being played, and
Less so.
basketball happens indoors. So yeah, well, that's the thing. They do squeeze out.
I
And
don't
the
want to
Blackcaps
cancel.
get to go on nice cricket tours away to other people's summers when it's not summer for us. But
I don't want to connect sports to seasons. Like we play football in summer. There's no football season. Yes, if you're a battler and you're playing football, it's a winter thing. But following football, to me, there's no season because we're following A League over summer. Like to
yeah, but
me,
that's an Australian league. They do things a little bit odd.
yeah, but you can look
Like
anything. Like with a
in
cricket,
Europe, they have like winter breaks and stuff, and like it's during the time when it's summer here, it's like snowing in games that, I don't know, Macau it's playing in or something like that. Um,
yeah, but like
in
shout out to
the
Europe, you've got nothing to do with how I interpret seasons.
Yeah, well, that's fine because you're
Yeah,
not in Europe.
yeah, exactly.
But the seasons come and go wherever you happen to be, and it's always somewhere it's always something somewhere, and it's different at different places and at different times, and it's all part of this ever swirling ball of rock in the middle of space.
Yeah, but the sports is man-made. I can't agree with you there. That's where we differ.
Uh,
To me, my fascination with seasons is purely nature
yeah, fair enough.
because I could start a cricket competition in winter and say it's cricket season. And that's just me being a silly
Well,
human. And then Mother Nature would disagree and it'll be pissing down rain the whole time and we won't be playing cricket, But that's the nature seasons that I think are a wee bit more important. The Phoenix woman. 2 losses. You did outline a few issues in our newsletter, the nichecase.substack.com. Sign up because we're just typing out Aotearoa sports for every Monday and Thursday evening. I didn't watch the Mariners game, but I did watch the Western Sydney Wanderers game. And the feeling I like about watching the Phoenix woman is when I'm confident they can get the ball off their opposition in any situation, and there's some razzle dazzle. There's always they've never had an issue creating chances. So the Wellington Phoenix woman, when I'm watching them, I like watching the Wellington Phoenix woman play football because in summertime, because they are going to get the ball off the opposition and they're going to put some shots on the goal or around the goal because they create chances. What I'm saying is they are physical bullies and they got some razzle dazzle. I had that feeling against the Wanderers. So they have 2 losses. There are some issues. It's not the best time to have back-to-back losses. This loss was at Jerry Collins Stadium in Porirua. So it wasn't the best performance to dish up in front of your fans at this time of year. But watching that Wanderers game, I had the same feeling of what I like about the Phoenix woman. They can get the ball whenever they want, and they can create chances. And there's a lot of holes we can poke into that. Not taking chances is probably going to be your biggest issue. But the things that I like are still there. And it's not like I've seen those things vanish. So we're entering the finals mixer with a couple of consecutive losses. They might bounce back. We'll wait and see. But ultimately, I'm still enjoying the Phoenix football because the things that I like about the team were still present in a loss, which is very different to the Warriors. Right? Like the things we saw, the things we like about Warriors Rugby League weren't there at all against the Tigers. So it feels different. But the Phoenix woman, I still enjoyed watching them play soccer football because the things I like were there.
yeah, all whites against Finland were lacking on the things that we sort of hope and expect to see from them, and then all whites against Chile, they brought it back and they played with a bit more sort of intensity and what's the word, like just a purpose, a willingness to attack and get forward and create chances and put a few chances away. I think I fall somewhere in between that with the Phoenix women. I think you can see the outlines of the team that they've been, but I also think there's been a drop off in the last 2 games. And if the drop off is based on fatigue, maybe, then a lot of players have basically played every game, and it's not that long of a season, but it's a long enough season that when you're at the end of it, you'll be feeling it. And they had to play like 3 games in 8 days or something like that because of the midweek catch-up game against Central Coast, and 2 of them were away. And I think that does catch up with you. So it could be something where we can just say fatigue was the main factor. Maybe they got a little bit too carried away with the trying to finish first and maybe took their eye off the prize a bit. But losing away in Central Coast is unfortunate, but that's actually, I didn't realize this at the time until after as I look back. They've lost every game to Central Coast. They've actually never beaten them. They've lost 6 in a row against them. That's their bogey team. To have to do that on a short turnaround midweek away from home is actually a really difficult fixture. And in that context, they should have bounced back against Western Sydney, though. And that's where it does get a little bit frustrating. I don't think frustrating in a way where it's like, oh, the hopes we might have had for this team going into finals have disappeared now. It's not that. It's just that in this game, they weren't quite there at the level that we expect of them. And I didn't love the way Bev Priestman handled it. I didn't love some of the selections. I thought maybe once the minor premiership was gone, you might have been able to mix things just slightly, one or two players there to check some rest. But then also when it's like you're chasing the game in the second half, and one of your ideas is to um, bring on Macy Fraser, great idea. Bring on Lucia Leon, great idea. But to bring on Lucia Leon and put her at left wing back, where you've got Zoe Benson, who's not a wing back, playing on the right wing back. Lucia Leon, even though she hasn't really played there this season, is a specialist right wing back. So maybe you put the specialist in her position and the player who's just filling in an unfamiliar position in the other side. Maybe might have done a little bit more. But especially like we're going to chuck on Daisy Brazendale instead of Emma Peinenberg. Like Peinenberg is the creative player in your midfield, and you're going to take her off and put on a defensive player who doesn't really do much going forward. I don't know that was handled as well as it could have been. But the main thing I come back to is like, do we need to see Mackenzie Anthony starting games for the Phoenix? Because they've lost 3 of the 4 games that she started, and they've only lost 3 out of 15 in the other game. In the games she hadn't started throughout the season. I don't like that trend, and I don't like the way of watching, like, because Anthony's playing as the main striker and looking to hold the ball up, but she's not really holding the ball up that well, or if she does, it's just ending up going backwards. And what you do then is you miss out on having Michaela Woods as the furthest forward striker who's running in behind and stretching the defense that way. And some teams prefer this style, but I think the way the Phoenix play, it's much better suited to having Woods stretching the back line. And even if she's getting flagged offside, as she's done a bit too often lately, but you'll always cop a couple of those just to keep them on their toes and retreat them. And then that creates space for Pia Vlock to work in outside the penalty area and for Brooke Nunn out wide and things like that. And I just don't like that as a strike duo, the Woods and Anthony strike duo. And I don't like the way that sort of maybe push the team, which is already bordering on this, but it's bordering on this in a good way. It pushed them a little bit too far into the North American football style of just like strength and athleticism and over craft. It's like they've been very successful at, I don't know what the balance might be, but they've found a balance of that has worked for them quite well. But that one, maybe just like having Anthony and Woods up top, tips it a little bit over the edge. And like, do feel bad for Emma Main, who has a better goal scoring record than Anthony does this season and can't even get into the squads at the moment. Like, she's sitting on the sideline next to all the injured players watching in track suits because she can't even fit on the bench because everyone's fit. Fair enough, okay, but like, I think she might be a better option than 1 or 2 players that are in that squad at the moment.
Even like, I agree with you about Mackenzie Anthony. She don't know how good she is, but still feel good about the chances they create. Like, I don't think they're lacking chances. I don't think they're like Mackenzie Anthony's gonna push someone off the ball. Like, those things are still there. Good Wellington Phoenix football things are still there in a loss. I do agree that we don't really need Mackenzie Anthony and Michaela Woods together. We were saying that a couple of weeks ago, and now it's even less important or interesting because we do have Macy Fraser back in the mix. And I mean, we're looking at Macy Fraser and Pia Vlock in attacking midfield roles. Maybe Vlock moves into a number 10 role, and then I did hear a lot of that in the All Whites commentary as well. There was a lot of number 6 moving to number 8, and then number 8's going to come over to number 4, and then we got a number 9 role, number 10 role. That obviously ground my gears, and I was like, bruh, what's a number 8? It's just a question in my head, but that's just football lingo for you. Having Vlock and Fraser in kind of attacking zones, I think, is going to be very funky, especially because a lot of the other players in the squad, aside from Emma Main, who you mentioned, surely there's some sort of injury we don't know about. I don't know. But
it's possible.
Yeah. But there's so many other good players further back where I don't feel like, I just feel like it was a better balance for the team if Mackenzie Anthony's on the bench, and then you can, because I think you mentioned Lucia Leon, she was playing on the left. Well, we've got Manai Elliott and Lara Wall as left backs.
Wall currently injured, but yeah.
Right, but that shows the amount of players in these positions. You got Grace Jale and Emma Pinenberg, Daisy Brazendale. I think there's more, the quality of the roster, the squad, the best players are more midfield and defense. And so not only do you have Michaela Woods and Anthony, two Maccas, the Big Mac, double Mac. Not only are they very similar players, but I think the balance of the team is better if you have a little bit more Macy Fraser, Pia Vlock getting into different positions, and then Leon can cover multiple positions, and you can like just have more of your better players on the field if you do take Anthony off. And I do love the Kiwi aspect of this Phoenix women's team that I think is overlooked. And I mentioned it last week because you've got the spine, but now we got Macy Fraser in the team. So two of the best attacking players are both Kiwis, which is something we've never really had in Kiwi football, let alone Wellington Phoenix women. So you not only do you have the Pia Vlock Macy Fraser combo with Grace Jale and Emma Pinenberg in the midfield, Daisy Brazendale comes on for Emma Pinenberg. She's still a Kiwi. So we got Kiwis rotating through a lot of positions, but there was also the news that Ellie Walker has re-signed. And the signing's fine. It's just the way she's talked about, to me, is completely overlooking Mackenzie Berry. Because every time I watch Mackenzie Berry play, I think she's the best defender. And she's the captain. And obviously she's a Kiwi. And so you've talked about it, but I don't want to fire a shot to you, but I've seen Walker discussed as like the best player for the Phoenix or the most important player and these type of things. I don't even know if she's the best defender. Because every time I watch Mackenzie Berry, I'm amazed at how good she is. To me, Mackenzie Berry is the cornerstone of that defense along with Vic Hesson. That's the Kiwi spine we've talked about. But anyone who says Ellie Walker's the best defender or the best player, whatever, what about Mackenzie Berry? Because Mackenzie Berry to me is awesome. And she's the leader of the team. Ellie Walker, yeah, she's an important, senior, mature figure. Mackenzie Berry's the captain. Mackenzie Berry is the leader. She is the true blue Kiwi who drives Phoenix culture to me. Am I a silly bugger?
I'm not pondering on the silly buggerness of it. I'm pondering on the actual question. I think Ellie Walker is the best defender on this team. I think she's the more well-rounded player. She sort of has.
She's got big throw-ins, whipped shit.
That's not even defending. That's a nice addition. As she was the player who was sent up. We've seen her play as a makeshift wingback once or twice, and just sort of the last 10 minutes of games. And within the last month, and then on the game on the weekend, we saw her play as a striker for the last 10 minutes. It's like, we didn't get enough of Mackenzie Anthony doing the same thing at the start, so let's chuck someone else on now that she's been subbed off. But Walker did as good of a job, and it would have been nicer if maybe some of those flick-ons actually had someone running onto them. Then they might have found an equalizer from those. But I think
I do think the big defender playing striker, the shine of that has diminished a little bit in terms of. We saw it we've seen it with the Auckland FC and Wellington Phoenix men. So both men's A-League teams have done it on and off in patches throughout the last couple of seasons. Never really fills me with any sort of vigor. It's not
it's a desperation move.
Yeah, but it's like, do you have strikers on your bench? Because yes, the big burly defenders might ruffle a few feathers, but are they going to, nudge the ball into the corner? Are they going to because it's one thing to win a header as a defender because you're not really fussed where your header's going.
Yeah, exactly.
If you win a header as a striker, you're aiming your header into the corners away from the goalie. And whether it's like Nando Pinecker playing striker for Auckland FC, love Nando Zen, love Joe Zen, I love my Zen boys. Like, cool. Has Nando Pinecker playing striker like helped Auckland FC win games? I think that's debatable. Maybe Corbin Piper playing striker has helped Wellington Phoenix win games. That's because he's playing them fairly consistently. He's not just the defender they're throwing up front. And now we've got
He's not even a defender.
Yeah, so he's made the transition. And so, like, yeah, Walker was put up front, but like Emma Main can play up front, you know. Like,
she could have been playing up front from the start. For the last two games, they might have not lost them. But strictly on a defensive sense of it, I do think Ellie Walker is the sort of premier player there. She's the tallest of those defenders. She's the strongest of them. She's the best on the ball. She is the most sort of composed, etc. But you're not the best defense in the A-League because of one player. And it's not just, you can't even be the best defense in the A-League because you have one superb player and just a few job doers. Like, you got to have superb players across that back line. And Mackenzie Barry has had a brilliant season, and she is very important to this team beyond what she does as well. I mean, she's been captaining them since CJ Block got injured. Like, that shows plenty right there of the like esteem that she's held in. She is insane as a tackler. Just from the moment she got into the A-League, it's been like this, and it's still true. Like, if you show just an inch of that ball within her range, she's kicking it away from you. She's stretching across and taking it from you. But she does, like, there are elements of her game that maybe aren't as well rounded. I think that's why she's fallen out of or struggled to get consistent selections for the Football Ferns. And I broke this down in the Football Ferns roundup because she's not in the latest squad. And it's like, yeah, okay, if you watch the Phoenix every week, you're probably very reasonably going to be like, how the hell is Mackenzie Barry the way that she's playing? How the hell is she not making the national team squad? Like, well, because Kate Taylor plays every week in France, and she's ahead of Michaela Foster plays every week in England and is also left-footed and takes set pieces. Yeah. Rebecca Stott is one of the best A-League players of all time. Work your way down the list. Barry comes in at like 6 or 7, you know. We just happen to be stacked for centre backs, but she is still she's had a brilliant season, and she's been very important to what. I think Marissa Vandermeer as well is kind of the forgotten player in that back three. It's all three of them. It's not 1, 2, 3. It's not like one in the others. It's not 2 in the others. But Vandermeer has also been very good. Of those three, I think I can't remember if Walker scored any goals this season, but Vandermeer's got a couple. She's an attacking target from set pieces on those crosses. Like, she is someone who, because she's played a lot of wingback, fullback before, she can push forward as well. She can like dribble the ball and just like, there's a lot of stuff that she does. She's superb at winning headers. Which is why she's a great target for set pieces. Like, there's Mackenzie Barry is probably being a little bit underrated for how well she's played for this team. Marissa Vandermeer has been a lot underrated. She's been completely underrated for how well she's played for this team. Like, that whole back three has been superb.
I obviously didn't know Marissa Vandermeer existed, so that shows how underrated she is. I couldn't fight the sensation within me when you were rolling through some of the Ellie Walker stuff, that like, to fight back, to counter you, to argue. And to me, that shows how I feel about Mackenzie Barry. And yeah, the Football Fan stuff is all good and fine and dandy, but just for like, who are the best, some of like comparing players within the Wellington Phoenix, I do think Mackenzie Barry, to me, I think she can do anything Ellie Walker does. And I think she does a few things better than Ellie Walker. And I just want to shout out Mackenzie Barry because she is part of that Kiwi spine. Obviously Vandermeer as well now, so shout out to her. And we do have Macy Fraser cooking. Like, I was very clear in why I thought she was not playing, and Macy Fraser has done the work required, and the team is better with her in it. and she'll have a couple. Like I think she already had that free kick. She'll have a couple more moments, which could be championship moments, and that would be amazing for Macy Fraser. But ultimately, we're dealing in Pia Vlock and Macy Fraser together, which is an amazing combination for the Wellington Phoenix woman. Let's get into some rugby league. The Warriors obviously lost their NRL game, but they also lost 3 other games against West Tigers affiliated teams in Auckland this weekend. So the only game the Warriors won was the New South Wales Cup fixture, 29-28. Luke Hansen kicked a winning drop goal there. Bishop Neal scored 2 tries as a 17-year-old playing reserve grade. And I think my favourite Warriors thing right now is that there were 2 under-19 players who started the year in SG Ball Cup. They were playing New South Wales Cup in that win over the Tigers. I think that's actually the Magpies, Western Suburbs Magpies. Bishop Neal, 17 years old. I still haven't found Amasio Tiatia, his age, but he was on debut in New South Wales Cup. So the 2 players from SG Ball Cup this year who were playing in that New South Wales Cup win are both from Christchurch. Bishop Neal Hornby Jr. and Amasio Tiatia, a Linwood Celebration Jr. That's very important when we're telling the story of New Zealand Rugby League right now. And I say that because if I say who the 3 Kiwi NRL debutants so far this year are, Setu Tu, Siali Whaiamani, and Francis Manuleloa, they're all from Auckland. But at the same time, the youngest players for the Warriors New South Wales Cup team are both from Christchurch. Tiatia's did his job. There was a bit like him and Braylon Marsh moved up the grades to play New South Wales Cup because Makaya Tafua, another Linwood junior from Christchurch, and Jacob Auloa from Auckland, they were unavailable for that game. But Bishop Neal, that dude's crazy. He's taken all of his like ruthless highlight stuff from the lower grades, the junior grades, into reserve grade as a 17-year-old. So in most of these games, Bishop Neal is the youngest dude on the field. The Warriors, Luke Hansen's only kicking the winning drop goal because Bishop Neal scored 2 tries. And I think he's got 3 tries in 2 New South Wales Cup games as a 17-year-old. So that's all pretty crazy. But the Tigers as a club came to Auckland and won 4 out of 5 games. NRL, the Tigers team first, 32-14. 28-29 in New South Wales Cup, 36-30 in under 21s, 32-26 in under 19s, 26-16 in under 17s. It's worth noting that the Tigers do have other junior teams because Western Suburbs Magpies and Balmain Tigers both compete in these junior competitions. Like these type of, and I think we can look at that Tigers NRL performance especially, and like the Tigers are pretty good. The Tigers came to Auckland and did, like it was similar to what the Raiders did in Auckland last season, but the Raiders couldn't back it up this season. The Roosters couldn't do it this season, right? The Tigers did it. They ruffled the feathers. They shook up Mount Smart. They got under the skin of the Warriors. And I think I did hear Terrell May telling someone on the field that, obviously in the Warriors team, that they would be broke after footy. Tigers, they didn't have the menace, the malice that I think we saw from the Raiders last season, but they were chirping. They were up and about. They were eager to shake up Mount Smart Stadium. And they did it. Not only did they do that, they scored 20 plus points in the other 3 grades, the lower grades, where you might see more points scored, and won against the Warriors in Auckland. So if it's like from a Warriors perspective, that's not good. But it's Maybe that fits into the chaos of the world around us. I don't know. But from a rugby league observation perspective, that is very impressive. To come to Auckland and beat the Warriors in 4 out of 5 grades is very impressive. It deserves respect. It commands respect. And to me, this type of performance reflects on the culture and the environment within the Tigers, but it gets a bit iffy when we are dealing with the Magpies and the Balmain Tigers and that stuff. But this type of stuff is top down. And when you're dealing, like, none of this stuff is coming from, like, the CEO, though, right? Like, this type of footy stuff is coming from the head coach of the highest ranked team in the organization, who is Benji Marshall, who is obviously from Aotearoa. And you can see Benji Marshall, he gets a bit of juice. He gets a bit of mana from coming back to New Zealand. There's like a little bit of energy when he returns to Aotearoa that I think he enjoys. And I'd be respecting the Tigers regardless. But it's amplified by the having a Benji Marshall as coach of the NRL team coming to New Zealand and setting the tone, because New South Wales Cup played first on Friday, NRL played second. They had a big win. Then the all 3 other grades are playing on Sunday. They're following the example from the NRL team. That starts with Benji Marshall as coach. And it was very impressive weekend for West Tigers and their affiliated teams, driven by Benji Marshall, led by Benji Marshall, at the same time that Kieran Foran is announced as the Sea Eagles head coach for the time being. So we have a situation now where 2 players who have played for the Kiwis within the last 5 years, I think, are now NRL head coaches right now. Kieran Foran, I think he was a coach last year for the Kiwis. And Benji Marshall hasn't done any, I don't think I've seen him do any like coaching link stuff with the Kiwis. Kieran Foran was part of the coaching staff last year, I believe. Obviously, Benji Marshall loves Aotearoa. He's played for the Kiwis recently, and he's an absolute legend of Aotearoa Rugby League. But we got 2 of these dudes now coaching NRL teams. We'll wait and see what happens with Kieran Foran. Obviously, he's on an interim basis, and he's got a bit of a situation to work through at the Sea Eagles. But Benji Marshall as coach helped drive a very impressive weekend of rugby league for the Tigers in Auckland. All 5 grades were played in Auckland, and the Tigers won 4 out of the 5 of them. NRL team, there's no like clear-cut Kiwi NRL junior in that group. Stafford Toa, Mount Wellington Junior, he's part of the squad, but he wasn't playing. The New South Wales Cup team that lost did have Patrick Herbert and Bunty Afoa. And I'm not sure the Magpies had many Kiwi NRL juniors. Jericho Felipe Talasau was playing hooker for the under-21s. He's from Auckland. He's a Manurewa junior. I think he went to St. Paul's College. He was playing for the Warriors last year. I think he's played under-19s and under-21s for the Warriors. And I think he was starting hooker for the under-21s team who returned to Auckland this week. And obviously, talking about all the hookers in the Warriors system, you can see how someone like Jericho Felipe Talasau may have been surplus to their requirements, because you got Sam Healy, Makai Tafua, Jacob Aloa, Braylon Marsh, and Masio Tiatia right there, who have all played at least New South Wales Cup this season, let alone whoever the under-21, under-19 hookers are for the Warriors. And while the Balmain Tigers didn't come to Auckland this weekend, I think Homer Fotu has been playing as a prop for the Balmain Tigers. I think it's under-19s. He's a Papatoetoe junior who was in the Warriors system prior to the season as well. And there's another dude, again, I think he's been playing under-19s for the Balmain Tigers. Jodeci Vahakolo Fafita, who has been like a bench utility, maybe in the halves and a bit of hooker for Balmain Tigers. So the Tigers umbrella doesn't have a lot of Kiwi NRL presence, but they do have a few notable spots that I think will only increase because obviously if you got Benji Marshall as coach, he's going to have a little bit of Aotearoa influence throughout the system, and we are starting to see it because like Jericho Felipe Talasau and Homa Fotu both left the Warriors this summer to enter the Tigers system. So that is a nice fresh wrinkle. Shout out to the Tigers. Like that commands respect to come to Auckland and have 4 out of 5 wins against the Warriors. Then we go to the Warriors, and this time last week you were asking me about Luke Metcalf playing no New South Wales Cup, and I kind of I wanted to stay present. I was not aware that the present moment was that Luke Metcalf was available, right? Because we recorded it before the team lists were announced. And the outcome was that Luke Metcalf didn't play New South Wales Cup. And like another player who doesn't play New South Wales Cup very often, Rocco Berry, who was the example you mentioned, Luke Metcalf wasn't as good as he could have been. So we do have that trend of Andrew Webster just chucking dudes into the NRL with no build up to that moment. And there are ramifications when you do that. Because guys they're not going from training to NRL and just like looking comfy straight away. That doesn't usually happen. And Luke Metcalf offered another example last week. I don't think you can go backwards from this point though. Like you can't say, Luke Metcalf, you're playing NRL, now you're going back to New South Wales Cup to build up back to NRL. Like Metcalf, like Webster's already mapped it all out, and he's committed.
Yeah, this was his build-up game, effectively. Yeah. Like whatever he would gain from playing New South Wales Cup, he just had an NRL game to do that.
Yeah. Something I have been thinking about, and it is ease now that news has come through with Mitchell Barnett. He's got a broken thumb, so he's going to be out for a while. I think there might be like a bit of a too many guys problem for the Warriors in the NRL team, but that's based on the loss. And I am most curious like how the Warriors bounce back, because they will lose games. And all that matters is how they respond to those losses. But because even in that halves conversation, you've got Lou Metcalf, Tana Boyd, Chanel Harris-Tavita. Tamara Martin might come back at some point. You got Jet Cleary, you got Luke Hanson, you got so many halves, let alone the other positions. Like Webster dropped Ali Leotawa from the NRL team to get Taintua Piki at fullback, Nickel Clockstar at centre, and then you've also got Khan Pereira, you got Hazen Mellors, you got Leotawa, you got just so many players, let alone the forward pack where every game, like 4 or 5 different players are playing edge forward. And it's like Dimitri Vaimonga didn't play NRL against the Tigers. Tanisdale Smith got those minutes. Yes, some of it is naturally sorted through with injuries and suspensions. It's just like there's so many players to fit into a team that it's like, it just, against the Tigers at least, it didn't work. Having too many guys did not work. And best case scenario is not that players get injured or suspension, but instead of all of us trying to driving ourselves crazy, trying to fit guys into the team, and when you're trying to fit guys into the team, weird stuff happens, right? You're trying to fit Taintua Piki into the team. So then you've got to move Nickel Clockstar to centre. You've got to drop Ali Leotawa. And like these things happen because you're trying to fit them into the team. As opposed to like, who are the best players? What's the best combination? And I'm curious how that unfolds. Because there's a fine line between having great depth and having too many guys. To me, the difference is when you have great depth, everything's clearly defined, right? Like you've got this guy's the backup, these guys are um, in reserve grade. They're getting that experience, and then you can like everything is just mapped out nicely, and you can see there's a ranking, there's a pecking order, there's best available, and you go from there. Whereas too many guys is just there's too many guys, and we don't know who the best players are. We don't know what the best combinations are. We don't know who's best suited to those positions. And I'm curious how that unfolds over the next couple of weeks. The Warriors, Sunday afternoon in Sydney against the Cronulla Sharks. So we'll get an idea when Teamless Tuesday comes around in a couple of hours, and I'll try to make a video on Wednesday to break some of that stuff down. But to me, that was the vibe from the Tigers game, right? It was so chaotic, and I don't know, maybe Andrew Webster was just like, let's take the piss this week. Just like shake things up, see what happens, all good. I don't know if that was the case, if he put deep thought into the plethora of changes he made. I don't know. It didn't work against the Tigers, and I'm curious what his next moves are, as well as how the team responds.
So after three like pretty fantastic performances and three big wins in those ones to this defeat, do you think that the selection changes were the main difference between that, or were there other factors? Or obviously a nice hungry Tigers team coming to visit. You've just mentioned how that's a factor, obviously, but every team in the NRL has good weeks. You know, the opposition isn't necessarily like that could be a defining factor in anything, but you also got to take care of what you can take care of. And was that like what changed for the Warriors from what they were last week after three straight wins to what we saw on Friday, or what you saw, because I was watching the All Whites?
It's kind of like it's a combination, because the thing I'm leaning on the most is that it's just hard to win every game in the NRL. And it's hard to win every game in the NRL because it's hard to play your best every week. Like, yes, we want the Warriors to be unbeatable at Mount Smart and to be unbeatable in an NRL season. I, specifically with the Warriors and any other team not named the Penrith Panthers, to me it's like impossible to win every game. And it's kind of impossible to play your best every game, because that's just a fact of the NRL. Winning when you're not at your best is very useful because of that. So, like, if the Warriors had stumbled their way to a win against the Tigers, that would have been great. Because you're just not going to win every game. Like, it's just too physical. It's just too hard. There's not many very bad teams in the NRL where you can assume a victory. Like, maybe if you're coming up against the Dragons, you might feel a little bit more confident. But aside from that, like, there's not many teams where you can just be like, yeah, easy dub this week. Some people make assumptions like, oh, the Tigers coming to Auckland, the Warriors should win this game. Based on what? You know, like, because we've seen the Warriors lose games at Mount Smart before. And we've seen the Warriors under Andrew Webster have a bad game. Even in their best seasons under Andrew Webster, the same way every other NRL team has a bad game. So that's kind of just a fact of life in the NRL. Obviously, Andrew Webster does not fully buy into the theory that you don't change a winning team, because he did that, right? Like, you win 3 games in a row to start your season, and then you make almost like wholesale changes, which that might have not been like a factor in why the Warriors lost. But to me, it's more airy-fairy, where it's like, then you're just dealing in the dark arts of sport. You're getting into some bad juju territory. I'm sure there's like some Māori terminology that I could do a better job at using to describe this, but if you're tinkering to that degree, I don't think you're setting your team up for success based purely on bad juju, dark arts type of stuff. And so, like, it's a bit of a combination about that. Like the selections don't mean they don't impact Adam Pompey having a brain explosion, right? The selections do not impact the Warriors not having a marker, a dummy half, just as they're building with some momentum. And that is one of the most disgusting rugby league acts you can do, is to not have a dummy half. Like, and the reaction on the Saturday video, I described how the Sea Eagles had that moment a few weeks ago, but that came off a long break. So it was disgusting, and it set the tone for what has happened at the Sea Eagles. But the Sea Eagles make a big line break, and then there's no dummy half. It's disgusting, but it makes sense because, well, it doesn't, like, it's disgusting. It's disgusting because no one actually made the effort to go to dummy half, which like Rugby League 101. But you can forget, it's not forgiven, but it's like, okay, they made a big line break. The Warriors instance, the guy just ran 5 meters or 10 meters, and all the team was right behind him. So it's kind of disgusting, even more disgusting. But selections didn't impact that. That's where you get the blend and the mashup of these two things, where the selections did not impact performance and fundamental aspects of rugby league that the Warriors did not do very well. And respect to the Tigers, right? The Tigers were good. The Tigers came to Auckland. Benji Marshall, his coaching, they play a vibrant style of footy. They're moving the footy around. They're fast. They're dynamic. The Tigers were good. The Tigers had nothing to do with Adam Pompey being Simbad. The Tigers being good at rugby league didn't cause Adam Pompey to tackle a dude as he was going for a 20-meter restart. The Tigers being good at rugby league had nothing to do with the Warriors not having a dummy half. And it's like, at some point, you want to limit the bad juju that you're putting out there. And when you're getting a bit too cute with the selections, when you're tinkering and you've got all these, like, maybe Anthony Seabolt type of ideas that just overcomplicate things, that's when I think you're getting into the bad juju territory. That is, you can't be measured. That is strictly an idea in my imagination. There's no stats. There's no logic here. But I just don't think that helps you win games of rugby league.
Or football, because it's funny how much that sounds like the Italiano versus Corica dynamic. Like the winning coach who likes to keep a consistent team every week, and then the coach who has had bouts of success and bouts of very much not success, who love to tinker and overcomplicate.
We do have the Panthers. They're 4-0 to start the season. A lot of good stuff happening there. Obviously, Casey McLean's trucking well. Isaiah Papali'i. Keilani Going has dropped out of their NRL tier with Scott Sorensen. I think he's back. Moses Leota is doing his thing. Your Dragons lost to the Titans. How did you feel? Like, obviously, no one cares about the Dragons, but how did you feel about the Titans? Because they have a new coach. They do have a bit of Aotearoa flavour in their NRL team, but also throughout their system. Keano Kini at fullback, and, well, he's the only main dude. So less, and Whaiamani on the wing, very powerful winger coming out of St. Paul's College. No Tuki Mihia Simpkins in that game. Do you have any thoughts about what the Titans did against your Dragons? I'd say specifically Keano Kini.
Well, he made a couple mistakes in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes. particularly under the high ball stuff where they were bombing to him a bit, and he dropped one or two of them, or fumble in the hit up, and that's a conflicting thing when you're like when New Zealand are cheering for the other teams. Like, I do want to see the Kiwi guys do well though. Like I want to see the Titans making mistakes coming off their line. I'd prefer it if it wasn't Keano Kini doing it, but also Dragons fan, you take what you can get, and what they got wasn't enough. So he did steady the ship from then onwards and was much better. And the Dragons, who didn't have Setu too in this game, they dropped him to bring in Tyrell Sloan on the wing because I guess they wanted an X Factor player, and that didn't make any difference. But yeah, that's been a brutal team to watch for the first 4 weeks because it's not like they're even getting thrashed outside of the last 20-30 minutes against Melbourne was pretty catastrophic, but Melbourne will do that to most teams. The other games have all been close, and they've just like found ways to not win close games as they did throughout last season. So nothing's actually changed there, and I don't know, I maybe need a bit of Kieran Foran's coaching somewhere, Benji Marshall's coaching somewhere. I don't know who the next one off the, like, do I go further back and say like Thomas Luluai or something, or do I go further forward and say let's get Sean Johnson to coach the Dragons?
Maybe.
Benji did play for the Dragons for a little bit, so maybe we can poach him. There might be a swap one joint venture club for another one. Trade your chaos for even more chaos.
Yeah, well, you could get Anthony Seibold,
He's available. I don't know that coaching is strictly the issue though for the Dragons. They just seemed like they have a squad that's not quite talented enough.
Keano Kini is tied for third most offloads in the second offloads in the NRL. Tied for second. Herbie Farnworth is first on 16. Keano Kini and Jaden Sewer both have 12. Right, listen to the guys on this list. Farnworth, Kini, Sewer, Kikau, Kiraz, Mooney, Tapane, Haas.
Yeah, the little fullback is out of place there in a in a size competition. Yeah.
4 offloads against the Dragons, and he gets his offloads in a different way, mainly thanks to his speed and getting between defenders. Righto, let's move into the cricketing net session where Canterbury are Plunket Shield champions. The White Ferns lost the first ODI against South Africa. The Blackcaps squad to tour Bangladesh was announced. T20s and ODIs, and 2 New Zealand Day squads were announced this morning. So let's start with the White Ferns. Really fun first ODI. They play the second ODI against South Africa tomorrow on Wednesday. Maddie Green had a good score in that game, and she is the leading run scorer for the White Ferns since the start of 2025. 490 runs at a strike rate of 100. Averaging 49, strike rate of 100. So Maddie Green is one of the best ODI batters for New Zealand at the moment. It's basically her, Brooke Halliday, and Mealy Kerr. So that was a good continuation for Maddie Green. And like, another good thing I liked with the batting performance was just everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of players chipping in with runs that helped the White Ferns get to 268. So like knocks from Jess Kerr, Izzy Gaze helped rebuild the innings with Maddie Green. All the top 3 batters scored 20 plus runs. So it was a nice team effort to get a competitive score. And then South Africa did well to chase it down, thanks largely to Kayla Reinaka. A couple of sixes in the final over. Jess Kerr 2 wickets, Rosemary Mayer 2 wickets, Mealy Kerr 2 wickets. Mealy Kerr and Jess Kerr are the best bowlers in ODIs right now. And Rosemary Mayer, I'm curious about her moving forward because she is one of the most underwhelming T20 bowlers, but she's solid in the ODI format. What do you think Suzie Bates is averaging with the bat since the start of 2025 in both formats? Let's go ODIs. Suzie Bates, 11 games, 8 innings. She is averaging
Well, it's Susie Bates, right? One of our all-time greats. So I don't know, 45.
She's averaging 14.
Yikes.
And in T20s, 10 games, 7 innings, 133 runs. She is averaging, what do you reckon?
Do I go above or over 14? Let's go under. Let's say 12.
Should have gone over. It's 19.
Okay, fair enough. On you, Susie.
So she's averaging 19 in T20s and 14 in ODIs since the start of 2025, as well as averaging over 40 with the ball in both formats in this period.
Sounds like the person you want bowling your last over.
It's important to note that the Susie Bates stuff is happening in both formats with bat and ball. But let's focus on the ODIs. And she opened the batting in that game, which is interesting because she is averaging 14 with a strike rate of 64. And no one else with 100 runs is below a strike rate of 70. 150 in 8 innings, no strike rate. She hasn't hit a 6. Tess Kerr's got a 6. Georgia Plummer's got 3. Izzy Gaze has 2. Mealy Kerr's got 1. Brooke Halliday's got 5. Susie Bates does not have a 6. And no strike rate. And no average. And very few runs. So that Susie Bates is a batter. Meanwhile, she's averaging over 40 and in both formats with the ball, which is quite interesting considering the I guess you could call it PR about her bowling revolution and how it's revitalized her career. I don't know how good she is. And once again, like, she does have good moments, but I don't see her turn the ball. I don't see much flight. I don't see much accuracy and control. And she, like, maybe it's Mealy Kerr's captaincy decision. That was the issue. Because Susie Bates bowled the last over. Surely, and this is less the case in ODIs because she is opening the batting. She's not doing a great job opening the batting, but compared to T20s where she's batting down the order and she is a bowler, she's a vibes player basically. Her bowling is less important in ODIs because she is opening the batting. She's not doing good opening the batting, but it's less of a focus on what she's doing with the ball. I just don't know how Susie Bates, like, regardless of what plan there is with Susie Bates as a bowler, I don't think opposition batters are just going to let her go through her plan. Right? Like we saw it in the T20s, her bowling on leg stump. Well, what happens after batters see that for 2 games? They're expecting you to bowl leg stump. They're going to hit you for boundaries. And if you're not doing a whole lot with the ball as far as movement and all these factors that make good bowlers, you might be hittable. Right? If you need a couple sixes, I'd be selecting Susie Bates to bowl to me. Because you know it's probably going to be tossed up there into your arc. Cricket lingo alert. You get the step hit out and you bang it for 6. Like it's just not a lot of trickiness to stop batters scoring off Susie Bates. And I'm fascinated by her bowling role ahead of the T20 World Cup because every other team's going to be prepared for her plans. And if you're not tinkering with the plans, but also if you don't have a lot of spin and you're not moving the ball both ways and all those things, you will be very hittable. And now I'm flagging Susie Bates as a bit of a red alert in both formats. But it was just one game, so we'll see how Susie Bates responds. However, she does have bad cricketing stats over a long period of time leading into that first ODI. The Canterbury won the Plunket Shield, and I think we can kind of weave through the other squads here to talk through some of the matters with various players. Such as Henry Nicholls. Like, best batter in the best team, Henry Nicholls, 870 runs, averaging 97, 3 centuries, 550s, 8 scores over 50. Next best was Brad Schmullian on 6 scores over 50. So if you're thinking Henry Nicholls isn't going to play for the Blackcaps anytime soon, you're wrong. Because Henry Nicholls, anytime he goes down to the domestic level, he scores runs. And he dominates the domestic circuit. And that's all you can ask for Kiwi cricketers, is to dominate the domestic level. And Henry Nicholls is doing that. That's why he's still in the ODI squad, who will be touring Bangladesh. Let's say batters who scored over 600 runs in Plunket Shield: Nicholls, Schmullian, Stackpole, Carter, Cooper. One of those dudes is a lot different to the others, not just because he's banging boundaries with a great strike rate, because he's also the youngest dude. Lachlan Stackpole. Shout out to him. Top 5 for runs, with a far better strike rate than anyone else and good averages. The bowling rankings: Ray Toole, 35 wickets, leading wicket taker. Tim Pringle, Fraser Sheet, Thomas O'Connor, and Michael Ray, and Rohit Gulati all took 27 wickets. The New Zealand A team, if Ray Toole's not in the New Zealand A team, Thomas O'Connor would never be in the New Zealand A team. Because Ray Toole has been a very good domestic left armer for a long time, much longer than Thomas O'Connor, and he has a very good first-class bowling record as the leading wicket taker on Plunket Shield this season, averaging 27.3 in first-class bowling, 31 in one-dayers and 29 in T20s, 48 first-class games, 50 one-day games. He still seems to be ranked behind Ben Lister, though, because Ben Lister was selected in both squads, and I don't mind that because I do like Ben Lister as a bowler, but I think a lot of people would be assuming that Thomas O'Connor would be part of a New Zealand A setup ASAP based on his domestic performances. To me, Thomas O'Connor is just another excellent young Kiwi cricketer, and there's no shortage of excellent young Kiwi cricketers who could have all been given an opportunity in the New Zealand A squad. But this is New Zealand cricket, where there is an abundance of talent. And for Thomas O'Connor specifically, you need to do it for 2 seasons or 3 seasons to make waves in the Blackcaps pecking order, based on my assessment and my perceptions about how they select squads. And there's this thing in New Zealand cricket where any good young player needs to be rushed in, and we don't need to rush anyone because, again, the lefty rankings, the lefty seam rankings go Ben Lister, Ray Toole, Thomas O'Connor. Well, Ray Toole's not in the New Zealand A squad, so I can't see Thomas O'Connor being selected in those squads, let alone him being selected ahead of Ben Sears or Christian Clark, both of whom have done jobs for New Zealand already in their careers, to tour Sri Lanka, remember. So you don't need your full arsenal of seamers. Should Thomas O'Connor, excellent all-rounder for Otago, part of an excellent finish to the season for Otago. Shout out to the Dunedin Oval, the University Oval faithful in Dunedin, because it was always amazing watching the community get behind their team. But Simon Keane has been one of Auckland's best batters and Auckland's best bowlers, and he's already played for New Zealand A. So I'm content with Simon Keane being selected ahead of Thomas O'Connor and anyone else. One thing I did find a bit quirky is Jared Mackay being selected in the 4-day squad. He did take 22 wickets at a 38 average in the Plunket Shield. He is averaging 40 in first class bowling and 29 in one day bowling. He does have wickets in 8 consecutive innings. So if we're looking at a player who Thomas O'Connor could have been selected ahead of, I would have gone ahead of Jared Mackay, but someone has enjoyed what Jared Mackay's doing. Good to see Max Chu in both squads. So we do have a bit of a situation with the wicketkeepers where Dane Cleaver has been selected for both Blackcaps squads, ODIs and T20s, to tour Bangladesh. And the younger wicketkeepers, Mitch Hay and Max Chu, are in the squads to tour Sri Lanka. So that basically means Dane Cleaver has overtaken Mitch Hay. And now Max Chu is joining that Mitch Hay tier at the New Zealand A level. I don't have any major issues with this. Like, it is a bummer for Mitch Hay that he does seem to have gone a little bit backwards, but I think what we're seeing with the Blackcaps squads is they are younger, a little bit younger, but also just like second tier. And the rationale in my head is that you maybe do want a senior wicketkeeper in these Blackcaps squads when there's a lot of emerging talent selected, instead of like having Mitch Hay as another youngster in these squads. And Dane Cleaver is from Central Districts where Rob Walter does have a lot of connections, and I would suggest maybe Rob Walter just likes Dane Cleaver and he likes his experience and maturity. And so Dane Cleaver is getting those Blackcaps opportunities. Dane Cleaver and Tom Blundell have been excellent batters recently. So it's like, you still need to score runs and be playing good cricket. It's not just like you're going to be selected because you're Dane Cleaver. Cleaver's been scoring runs. And what else do we have here? Otherwise, we also have the lefty spinners. Tim Pringle and Rohit Gulati are in both New Zealand Day squads, which I like because they are both in the top of the wicket-taking charts. Tim Pringle finished second for wickets. Rohit Gulati was ranked 6th. Both of whom are lefty spinners, and Fraser Sheet is selected in the 4-day squad for New Zealand A, which, again, he's been an excellent first-class bowler for at least 5 seasons. And that's what you need to be doing. You need to be performing at a high level for multiple seasons. Matt Boyle's in both squads. He's been one of Canterbury's best batters and spinners for a few seasons now. Dale Phillips, he's been doing it season after season, already played for New Zealand A. So let's go. What did I say? So leading wicket takers: Toole, Pringle, Sheet, O'Connor, Ray, Gulati, Keane. O'Connor and Toole are the only dudes not in that New Zealand A setup. I'm open to someone saying Ray Toole's better than Ben Lister. You can say Thomas O'Connor's got more upside than Ray Toole or Ben Lister. That's all right, but let's just let things play out in New Zealand cricket because we are stacked for talent and there's no scarcity. We're not thirsty to get anyone into any teams. There's a lot of talent and things would just play out how they play out, including Ryan Harrison's in the 4-day New Zealand Day squad. I've actually been very impressed with Ryan Harrison as an all-rounder along with Simon Keane. So if you think, I think in the start of the summer, we started with Ford Trophy. Simon Keane, Jock McKenzie, and Ryan Harrison were all excellent with bat and ball to start the season in Ford Trophy. So another example of how much talent New Zealand has, Jock McKenzie hasn't been cited in recent months, probably due to injury. And I think I've always said Jock McKenzie is one of my favourite just straight up cricketers. And Ryan Harrison is in that kind of group for Auckland as a very good all-rounder who, I mean, he can take the new ball. He can bat. He's not going to bat ahead of Simon Keane, but he's a very good batter as well. Curtis Heafy's in both squads. Reece Mariu's in both squads. We've got Mohamed Abbas in the 50-over squad. Aotearoa in the 50-over squad. And so on and so forth. Do you have any other talking points, questions? Because I need to refresh my brain quickly.
This is the first time Tim Pringle's been in the New Zealand cricket team, at a senior level at least, because he has obviously played for Netherlands internationally. So this is sort of like a little bit of a symbolic switch for him, I guess. An inevitable one. I think we all expected this to come at some point, and it has now after a very good Plunket Shield season. So shout out to that guy. Already into one of there's a few of those guys who've already played internationally, but he is also one of them, which might be forgotten because wasn't for New Zealand, but it will be for New Zealand at some point. Yeah, Jared Mackay was a surprising name, looking at some of those. Maybe Ryan Harrison, if you hadn't already told me on this podcast that Ryan Harrison had been having a good, strong season. But it's a fun team, and I really like these A tour things that they're able to get, especially because there's in the last sort of 5-6 years, you're starting to see them going to an array of different countries and conditions as well, and you can really see the way in which these squads, these tours are to prepare future Blackcaps. Like it's to, and that's why I expect guys like Harrison and Mackay have also gotten a little jump there, is because there must be something about their game. Well, for everyone there on that list, there's something about their game where they've pinpointed this is a guy who can play a certain role, which we want in the Blackcaps. Whether that's like, spin bowling all rounder down the order or whatever it happens to be. New ball seamer who can take the ball away, lefty seamer, whatever the role might be. There's a nice array of candidates there, and also we could probably find it. We could probably pick a B team behind the A team of guys who filled similar things. There is that kind of depth available, but it's always fun to see how these guys who are competing for Black Cap selections, and most Black Caps, not all, but there is definitely a pipeline there where it's a lot of players go from domestic cricket, A cricket, Black Caps along those sort of progressions. It's always fun to see how these guys go and who steps up and who scores runs, and there's a bit of continuity here, between the last time we saw A cricket, because I remember Del Phillips was scoring runs and was it South Africa, I think that they went most recently, and Curtis Heafy as well, and etc. etc.
Yeah, Mariu and Heafy scored big centuries in South Africa. And yeah, a lot of guys have come through the New Zealand A cricket, and they're playing a lot of New Zealand A cricket, which is great, and they're touring countries where players benefit from being in those other conditions. The Blackcaps squads, a pretty standard group that we would expect. I did see, obviously there's a cricket tournament that everyone thinks is the biggest deal. So I did see the Blackcaps, it described as the Blackcaps would send a depleted squad to Bangladesh, and I would, along with pondering an excellent group of cricketers not selected for any of these teams who are younger players, that's where you'd get Thomas O'Connor, Luke Georgeson, so on and so forth. But it's a depleted Blackcaps squad with Will Young, Blair Tickner, Nathan Smith, Ben Sears, Will O'Rourke, Henry Nichols. We've seen what Jaden Lennox can do. Mohamed Abbas, Tom Latham, Aotearoa. I mean, Christian Clark was the leading wicket taker in that ODI series in India. So it's very depleted. A very, very depleted Blackcaps squad. But this is New Zealand cricket. This is what we do. Dean Foxcroft is in the ODI squad and the T20 squad. Bevan Jacobs keeps his, he's still in that T20 squad. But Dean Foxcroft, I have been thinking that Dean Foxcroft will be a player to watch out for, because I remember when, we've got that batting spinny role where it was like it was Michael Bracewell. Well, to me, it's Glenn Phillips, then Michael Bracewell, then Cole McConchie, and now it's Matt Boyle. Just joking. Now it's Dean Foxcroft, who's getting, to me, he's the dude to watch out for in that specific position because he's been doing some great stuff for CD all summer long. And I just think Dean Foxcroft will play a lot more cricket for New Zealand. Nathan Smith, I think he had an excellent end to the season with Wellington, scoring runs, taking wickets. That's been very impressive. And we still have, where are all the all-rounders in New Zealand cricket? Do we have a shortage of all-rounders for the Blackcaps? Because the T20 squad, Nathan Smith, he's an all-rounder. Dean Foxcroft, a spinning all-rounder. Josh Clarkson, Christian Clark. They're all seeming all-rounders. Smith and Foxcroft and Clarkson and Clark and Muhammad Abbas. I mean, we're so short on all-rounders that we have a lefty seamer all-rounder with Muhammad Abbas in that ODI squad. We're going to be in Bangladesh, so who are the spinners? Adi Ashok, he's in the ODI squad. Jaden Lennox, he's in the ODI squad. They'll be doing the bulk of the bowling. Both of them were part of the New Zealand A stuff last year. T20 spinners, Ish Sodhi, Jaden Lennox, and obviously Dean Foxcroft is going to play a role in both formats as well. Like Jaden Lennox played ODIs for New Zealand against India, but his best format is T20s. And I think if Jaden Lennox does get an opportunity in T20s, I don't know if he's going to let that go. And again, we're talking about like the spin depth here. So the two best emerging spinners in the Blackcaps zone, Adi Ashok, Jaden Lennox. Then we go to New Zealand A, Rohit Gulati and Tim Pringle. So you've got your Ish Sodhi, Mitchell Santner tier. You've got your Adi Ashok and Jaden Lennox tier. Then you've got your Gulati and Pringle tier. All of which smells fantastic. Let alone the spinning all-rounders, who we also have a lot of, most notably in this kind of emerging cluster of Blackcaps, Dean Foxcroft.
And it's defined. So it's not too many dudes. It's defined because guys know where they are and what they need to do to move up the various steps. And Will O'Rourke is in that ODI squad as well, which is a return for him after several months out. And Will O'Rourke is a fantastic player to watch play cricket. He is a brilliant bowler and he's been very good for the Blackcaps, and it's nice to see him back. And to see him back in a side that also has Ben Sayers is pretty cool. And I get that this is a Blackcaps team that doesn't have a lot of their guys that were at the T20 World Cup recently. I don't think they're missing because the IPL's on. I think if the IPL was not on, whoever was busy doing that would still not be in these squads because they're just coming off a T20 World Cup. They've played a lot of cricket recently. They've got I saw it laid out, 10, 11 test matches or something like that coming up over the next 12 months. Like there's one in Ireland, there's 3 in England, there's a couple, India come here for a couple, and then we go to Australia for about 4, and then there's another series later in the summer, I think. Like there's a bunch of test cricket coming up, and it's a lot of days of it's a lot of time that guys are going to have to spend in camp, and they always rotate for, like, if there's a limited overs tour somewhere in between that, whether it's home or away, they always like to rotate a little bit. And there's a lot of continuity between this squad and the team we just saw play against South Africa. So I don't even think the IPL comes into consideration when it comes to selections. They've picked the guys they would have picked anyway, and it's a fun squad, and I look forward to them, I don't know, sweeping the series. Probably a little bit too much to ask. Bangladesh, especially in Bangladesh, are a very tricky team to play, but it'll be fun. It'll be a good little series, and we'll get a glimpse at a few of these other guys, and more prominent roles than they might otherwise ordinarily get as we, I guess, particularly in T20s, begin a new cycle really of T20 cricket.
Can you just remind me of anyone I've missed here? Far too much IPL mentions from you just then, but that's right. So if these are seamers who are moving forward as fully committed Aotearoa seamers, Henry Duffy Fox, that's 3. Then we got Will O'Rourke, Nathan Smith, need to get my second hand, Fisher, Sears, Tickner, Christian Clark, Michael Ray. So Michael Ray is genuinely the 10th seamer in that list. And I may have missed someone. So again, because I've been meaning to actually do that exercise, like Ray might be ranked ahead of Christian Clark, I don't know, but think back to the test series against West Indies. Michael Ray stepped into the test squad, to the test team, did his job as the 9th or 10th ranked seamer in the Blackcaps. Henry Duffy Fox, they're busy. That's all good. The squad to tour Bangladesh, we got Will O'Rourke, Smith, Fisher, Sears, Tickner, and Christian Clark. You got your all-rounders, Muhammad Abbas, Josh Clarkson, and someone else, maybe Nathan Smith, right? The listers in the New Zealand A squad, Christian Clark's there as well. There's some overlap here. Ben Sears. Then you get into, I think Simon Keane is the best ranked seamer yet to be mentioned in the New Zealand A tier. Fraser Sheet would be next. Then you get into the Jared Mackay, Ryan Harrison group. Meanwhile, like some of the best seamers in New Zealand right now aren't even selected. So if we're talking Thomas O'Connor, I think a lot like Thomas O'Connor stuff will be coming from Otago fans. Meanwhile, Jared Mackay is the funky selection in the 4-day New Zealand Day squad coming out of Otago. So if you do have beef as an Otago night, one of your boys is in the squad, so chill out. Like, it's going to be all good. Regardless of the intricacies of Jared Mackay's style, he does seem like a taller seamer. So, as you said, they've obviously seen something they like. If someone said, "Oh yeah, New Zealand, they've got some issues with their seam depth," what? You mean the seam depth with Will O'Rourke, Nathan Smith, Matt Fisher, Ben Sears, Blair Tickner, Christian Clark, none of whom are as good as Jacob Duffy or Matt Henry. Michael Ray did his job, right? So like that's the seam depth mapped out. And the thing I've been thinking a lot about is New Zealand cricket needs a massive pool of players relative to our population base, because we know our role, we know our place in international cricket. We have no power, we have no leverage. We are New Zealand. Our peers in international cricket competitively are the cricket cartel. Our peers in international cricket population wise are associate nations. Right, that's a brain buster in itself. We compete with the cricket cartel, and we have the population base of an associate nation. Most associate nations have more people than New Zealand. We're not worried about who's got a T20 job, right? We're not going to be down on this New Zealand tour to Bangladesh because people have T20 jobs. That's not a factor. What is important is that we have guys who can play cricket for New Zealand. Sure, Bangladesh, home conditions, they might brush the Kiwis aside. I don't know. But I'm not looking at those squads thinking the Blackcaps are going to suck. I mean, it's a fair reflection of excellent cricketers. I mean, Will Young, Will O'Rourke, Ben Sears, Nathan Smith, Henry Nichols. Might not be in the same caliber, but he's there. He's best domestic batter. Like, these are good Blackcaps teams, and the point is that we just roll with whatever's happening in the world of cricket, and we just like have so many players that it's not an issue. Oh, you got your T20 job stuff happening. Cool. Well, we've got guys who want to play for New Zealand right now, and they're going to do the job, and they're going to compete to the best of their ability. And as we saw in the ODI series against India, these guys might actually win. So the thing that the Blackcaps are doing really well is there's a lot of players who have already got experience playing for New Zealand. And we need all of these players to stay competitive in international cricket. Because it would be a bummer if this was 10 years ago, this Blackcaps team in this situation would be pretty mediocre. But I think they can win some games in Bangladesh. I think they can win the series in Bangladesh because we have so many players. The depth is so impressive, and it's not just like we need depth of seamers because seamers always get injured, right? We need 10 seamers because dudes are going to get injured. Less so for wicketkeepers and batters, but it's the same thing. But how do New Zealand compete internationally in this cricketing world? You just need the talent. You need the players. And we have the players. We have the talent. And I think it's an amazing place to be where, like, you've got, this is peak T20 job time. And we've got, like, Ben Sears is our best T20 bowler. He's going to be playing for New Zealand A and the Blackcaps. So that's one funky thing, but it doesn't really matter if he's available or not, because if he's not available for New Zealand A, bang, we've got another seamer ready to go. It's not just about having depth to compete in World Cups and have depth to compete in the series that everyone is fascinated about. The best thing about New Zealand cricket is we can do stuff like we're doing right now, where there's a lot of guys who are good enough to have T20 jobs around the world, and we can send a very good squad to Bangladesh, and we can send another very good squad to Sri Lanka. That is the depth, and that is the sign of depth that we have never seen before. And not many people want to be grateful about Blackcaps things, because a lot of people just complain about cricket. But we got some fantastic stuff happening here, to the extent where, yes, Tim Pringle's already an international. You could say, based on what Tim Pringle's done in T20 internationals for the Netherlands, he's one of our best T20 spinners in New Zealand. But he's not. He's in the New Zealand A setup. And he might not even be as good as Rohit Gulati. Neither of them are as good as Jaden Lennox. Crazy.
And the reason we can look at a squad like this and be confident is, like, that they can go in there and play good cricket and compete for results, is because they do have squads like this every now and then where these guys go and get experience, and they have played for the Blackcaps. If you look at the two teams that were named, the ODI squad and the T20 squad, there's one debutant. Jaden Lennox hasn't played T20s, but he has played ODIs. Everyone in that ODI squad has already played one-day international cricket. Everyone in that T20 squad, except for Jaden Lennox, who has played one-day international cricket, has played T20 international cricket. Like, there's no one who's just been plucked out of the blue. These are international cricketers, and we have a pool of international cricketers because we make use of these types of tours to ensure that there is depth around, and that depth has, you know, they know what's being asked of them. They know what the job is, and have done this kind of thing before. They've built this up over a few years, and now we can just go to a series like this with a squad like this and feel like, yeah, they're gonna represent New Zealand cricket as well as they can.
As international cricketers.
As international cricketers.
Beauty. That's us for today. Stay tuned on the YouTube. So there'll be a rugby league video coming. Stay tuned on the website, niche-case.com. Got lots of cricket writing to do, among many other things. And stay tuned for the newsletter on Thursday, the nichecase.substack.com. Big up yourself. Kia kaha. Stay beautiful. Chur chur.